Hello, and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I'm the human Gina, and as always, welcome back if you are a repeat visitor. I appreciate your attendance very much, even if you don't listen to the whole episode, which I know they get lengthy. But I just want you to know that I appreciate you infinitely, really. Anyone listening out there is, I believe, meant to be there as I'm meant to be here. And I want to welcome you and thank you again and let you know that you are appreciated. If you are a first time listener, welcome and thank you also very much for coming. These are unstructured for the most part, but usually they are inspired by something that I experience, something new in this brand new territory that I'm living within. And I guess that's really true. I mean, everything I'm experiencing that brings me to the microphone is brand new. And it's not necessarily a new experience, but it's a new perspective on the experience. And it's really allowing me to embrace this human life in ways that I never even imagined embracing not just surviving it as I had for so long, and really not just thriving, but really investing myself, uh, immersing myself in the experience of being in this human body and having this human experience. So when I come to the microphone, it's because I've experienced something that I want to share. And some of these things are so subtle. And then if you're not aware, or if I'm not paying attention as I had for most of my human life, I missed all of these that I'm sure happened many, many times. But now that I'm in this state of awareness, and I'm aware of the serendipitous, and I refer to the serendipity as magic. It really is the magical aspect of living a human life, because we're truly all living in a fairy tale. And I posted something recently on my Instagram. This quote just came to me, and I thought it was worth sharing. And basically, what I wrote was that I realized that we're all living in a fairy tale. It's just that some of us are the king or queen of our realm, while others are still lost in the haunted forest, being chased by the big bad wolf. And to me, this really, really was a depiction of our life as humans. We are here. We come to Earth by choice. It really is a brave choice, from what I'm learning, to have experiences that allow us to evolve. I mean, that's as simply as I can put it. There's so much more to that, but I'm going to just make that statement, and that you know, we choose our challenges and we choose what we want to learn or work on. And sometimes it's lifetime after lifetime after lifetime that we work on the same thing until we get to a point where we graduate and we become enlightened and illuminated. And then we become um, what's referred to as a light worker. And we come back to Earth to help humanity with their learning and with um, their illumination. And it's all very cyclical. It's all very much by choice, from what I'm learning. And it's just so interesting to me now, being in this energy where I'm so aware of everything that's going on, how much more I can appreciate it and relax about it, which is really the most important aspect of this commentary, because we spend so much of our lives worrying about things that never happen. I don't know, I heard somewhere that 99% of what we worry about never happens. And our brain is so good at inventing scenarios. I was telling my daughter this the other day. I have this weird ability to sense an accident before it happens, and then I actually feel the impact of the accident in my body. And I don't know if this is a byproduct of empathy, or exactly what it is, or if anyone else has this kind of weird gift. But I would love to hear about it if you do. But basically, if there's a situation happening, I can see the worst case scenario unfolding, physically, and I feel it physically in my body. So if someone else is about to fall down, let's say, when that person falls, I feel that impact in my body. It's the oddest thing, but most of it is emotional. I can feel the emotional impact of something that someone is going through or will go through. And I'm not saying it's psychic. I wouldn't label it as that, but it's just a feeling, and I think it's part of the empathetic mechanism in people who have uh, expanded empathy or are an empath, which I know is a popular term. I just refer to myself as empathic. I think that's more. It contains more of what I want to state when I talk about it, but I don't know why. It's probably 6 of 1 anyway. But because of this, I've always had, like, my mind has always gone to worst case scenario, and I worried about stuff that never happened, like, all the time, and I was very aware of that. And now that I'm in this different energy, this different stage of my evolution, this different iteration of this human, I see that so clearly, and I can mitigate it. And honestly, it really isn't an issue at all anymore, because so aware that I'm here on a mission as a spirit or a soul, that I'm in this human container to have a solitary or a a solitary experience where see myself separate from everything and everyone else. And that separateness allows us as humans to have our own experiences that are initiated by our own thoughts and our own purpose and our own hands and feet and everything else that we do to take action in the world. And the reason for that is very important. If we came to have an experience in our bodilessness, we wouldn't have the tools or honestly, the inclination to have relationships and to have and make mistakes and to do all the things that we do as human beings to learn. So, of course, our brain is designed to think, and that thinking is almost it's chronic. I mean, we have tens of thousands of thoughts a day. So getting a clear perspective on that, which I have been able to gain in this energy, in this frequency that I exist within, is made all the difference in my experience, because now I can see very clearly that it is not necessary for me to imagine worst case scenario in everything that I do and everything that I feel. So with that element kind of under control or managed, I would even say mitigated. Uh, I don't know if I'd say eliminated, because it does crop up. But as soon as it crops up, I can very easily see what it is, and I can and talk it down. So, understanding that tendency to overthink and to create all these scenarios, it really removes that whole stressor out of the life experience, and it makes this life joyful. Because even when something goes wrong, quote unquote, and that really doesn't make sense to me anymore, because nothing goes wrong. Everything that we experience is part of the template of our life here. So if something goes wrong, I don't know, the car breaks down, or somebody breaks up with me, or I lose something that I valued, it really, honestly, it might sting for a moment, but then my overall overarching perspective takes over, and my body just relaxes, because this is part of my journey. And I've been tested over and over and over again, in my resolve. And this is so funny. I was just saying this to myself the other day. I'm getting so much better at discerning my brain from my gut. So my human brain from my energetic brain. And I had a situation recently that really brought this to the surface for me again, and challenged me in a way that made me understand that I am really getting very, very good at managing the relationship between my thoughts and my feelings. And this is what I wanted to talk about today, because I think this is such an important aspect of humanity, that if we get a grip on it, we can have such an easier experience. And I think One thing I've been learning recently too is that we are here, of course, to evolve ourselves. And I talk about the love frequency all the time because this is something I've become so aware of, that the love frequency, you can imagine it as being a healing breath that blows across the earth, and everything it touches, it heals. That's what the love frequency is. If we exist within the love frequency, or if we exude love or emanate love out of our bodies, and it is an emanation, it's a vapor or a vibration that reaches out, just like vibration creates sound. Vibration, it penetrates matter, and it penetrates people and things and all consciousness, and it changes it. It's been described to me that a person who is in a loving state can walk through the forest, and the all of the vegetation, the fauna and fern know you're there. They take notice and they feel elevated because you're there. It heals them, and it does the same with other humans and all life forms. And when I think about that, it's so inspiring to just do my best always to try to think thoughtfully about, or be thoughtful or mindful about how I'm feeling, and to not really allow fear or negativity or doubt to have any place, any seat at this table, because all it works to do is to lower that vibration. And then you know what happens then. We get stuck in those lower thought patterns. We end up having a negative experience, and blah, 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 blah. You've heard it before. So, learning this about myself, my ability, taking charge of this tendency to overthink or to create uh, negative vibration by thoughts of worst case scenario, and we do it with a good intention. We want to prepare ourselves for the worst, so we imagine the worst case scenario, and in imagining that, we create those thought patterns that go out into the world, and they bounce off of everything except for other negative thought patterns, and they drag those other negative thought patterns back into us, thereby fortifying the negativity, thereby fortifying our natural tendency to think negatively. And it's so funny how clear this is to me now, and how I'm able to verbalize this where before I had no clue. If you think of your life as frequency, if you think of your body, your heart, your soul, your thoughts, your speech as frequency, it's so easy to see how easy it permeates. And that, frequency is vibration creates sound. Vibration, from what I'm learning, created the universe, and light and vibration created matter. It's so powerful. And this is what we don't understand as human beings, is our power, our God power, to co-create with the universe. It's what we emanate out of our bodies. And this is, I'm going back to our energetic signature. You cannot hide your energetic frequency from the universe. As much as you tell yourself in the mirror that you're healthy and you're happy and you are loved and supported, if you don't believe that in your body, that's what speaks volumes. That's what sends rays of vibration out into the universe and calls back to you the matching vibration. So, just let that be the only thing you hear today, is that what we think and feel leaves our body on a vibration that permeates everything, and it looks for, like a homing pigeon, it looks for a matching vibration, and it grabs it and brings it back. So that's what frequency is. It's always seeking out its similar match. It's match. The frequency attracts frequency. That's why we're in our lower vibrational iterations of ourselves, which I'd spend most of my life, we continue to attract that with that we that with what okay. We continue to attract what we fear. We continue to attract our worst thoughts and nightmares, truly. So, of course, the opposite is true. When we are clear of that, and the only way to clear ourselves of that negative vibrational weight is to clear that, what we store in our bodies. And I've said this over and over, I won't rehash it again. But once we're clear and that channel is open, the frequency rises, or the frequency is allowed to enter our bodies from the cosmos, that frequency that's coming in on the sun rays or through the gamma rays or whatever rays are coming from the universe, now they match they can enter our body because our body is clear and open, and our body becomes that frequency. And then we live that frequency and we emanate it out as well. It's like a big, just a big triangle. We receive it, and we ingest it, and we cultivate it, and we send it back out. That's how it works. So when we're in a negative mindset, we are trapped in that cycle that we cannot escape until we understand that we're trapped and we can see beyond it. That's perspective. And then we allow ourselves to rise above it. And that's how we grow and evolve. So understanding that, which I do acutely at this point, it's so easy to see how our brains can become the masters of the universe, and we ignore our gut because our gut is so it's basically the channel to that information is turned so far to the left that we're listening to hard rock when the classical station is where we need to be. So we literally are on the wrong frequency to hear our gut, our intuition, our higher self, and any other being who is here as a supporting entity of this life and mission we're on cannot get to us. We cannot hear them, and they are speaking to us all the time. And this is something that's so wondrous, and this is why I refer to this life now as a fairy tale. I have, and I laugh because when I think of it, it's literally a fairy tale. This beautiful paradise of this earth. It's gorgeous if you look outside. It's so beautiful here. There's nothing that man can make that matches the beauty of of all the natural beauty outside of our doors. And when I think about this, it's just astonishing how connected I am now to my intuition, and how my brain has kind of been in the in the background, but how she does crop in, and how I do need to make sure that I discern between the two. So if you're completely in your head, and I refer to this as being in your ego or even your personality, which is the way I heard it put recently, in your personality, you are so invested in your external experience, you forget that you are a machine that is self-contained and self-directed. And instead, we're relying on a person who's giving us manual directions who doesn't live here. That's what our brain is doing. And our body is like, no, I know the way, just pay attention. And when we listen to our body, we are guided throughout our lives. And this guidance is absolute. There's no mistakes. There's no wrong turns. This is absolute guidance. And I refer to my gut as my onboard navigation, because that's exactly what it is. And all I have to do is get silent in my solitude, which has become what I prefer over almost everything else except for time with my babies. This is where I reconnect, and I can hear the voice of my higher self and all the beings around me. And when I have a question, which I had one recently, I go to sleep and I say, sleep on it. Hey, higher self, Gina, help me with this one. What are we doing here? And I wake up and I know what to do. This is how particular this guidance is. It's literal if you get to the point where you can trust it. And one of the things that my soul wanted to do in this lifetime is learn to have faith in the universe, that I will always have what I need, that I will always be watched over and cared for, that my mission is that so important, that I have all of this, and this is what I designed. This is my Gina, the higher self of me, who is a dimensional version of me, and I exist in many dimensions. Uh, Created this life path for me to live. I'm basically the boots on the ground. So, when you think of yourself as that, it's so easy to see that everything that you experience is just an experience. It's the virtual reality that we chose to experience in this lifetime. So, I'm on this virtual reality tour or journey, and I'm having these experiences, and I'm being guided by my higher self and my soul team. And I was saying I refer to this as a fairy tale because of the beauty around me. I have fairy princesses, which I refer to my daughter and her new daughter, my granddaughter, are the fairy princesses. And I am the queen of my realm, which is, I feel very powerful, in control of my life, and who I am in this lifetime, and why I'm here, and the purpose of everything, even the most negative, destructive, horrible things that I went through. And I have a Prince Charming in the future. I mean, somewhere out there, my counterpart, my twin flame. So when I think about my life, I just this gratitude emanates from me. It's so far removed from the unsuredness and the doubt and the fear and the negativity and the trapped, so trapped in the negative thought patterns that I used to exist within. And now I can clearly see that was a lower vibrational version of me. I'm now in a higher vibrational version of me. So what I thought and felt and experienced is no longer possible. The frequency that is in my body, that is integrated in my body, and that I now emanate outward cannot carry that weight. It is a different radio station. It is on the lower end of the spectrum. I am now turned to a higher frequency station. So I had an experience lately that really illuminated this for me, and it really made me think about something that I talked about in a recent podcast called The Light Body. And I touched on this, I think, I'm not sure how long I spent on it. It's almost weird. After I do a podcast, it's almost like it's almost like I channeled it, because I try to think back at what I said and I really can't remember much. And I do occasionally go back and listen to them, but not very often. I don't know, I just kind of feel like it's done. The heart keeps moving forward. But I did go back and listen to The Light Body because it was a chapter that I read. And one thing I've learned about one thing very important that I've learned about taking in information. I mean, we get downloads as we sleep. I've been made aware of this. I've talked about this a lot. Downloads of information when I sleep. There's information in my body that has been dormant throughout many lifetimes that is now becoming awakened or enlivened or engaged. And there is information coming in from the gamma and sun and solar rays into my body. In addition, I'm taking in information through my eyes and brain when I watch content or I read information about that expands my knowing. And this book in particular, Earth by Barbara Marciniak, the one I read the chapter from, has really, I've had to take it in small quantities. And this is one of the only books out of the 4 of this series that I've read that I really read this sporadically. And I wondered why. I'm like, why haven't I finished that book? And what I've learned is that you can really only take in so much expansion, and then you have to process it. So you have to rest, you have to really get it out of your mind and just allow it to integrate or assimilate in your body. And this is so interesting to me because when you think of yourself as an energetic being, it's easy to think of your body as being energy, and that energy is being expanded. That's what that this escalation or this ascension is. It's an expansion of my energetic body so it can hold the information that is waking up and being fed into my body, so I can be a living library for the rest of my journey here. And I speak out what I learned on this microphone. I emanate it from my energy, in my heart, in my love, in my presence. Not just me, all of us do. So when I consume this information, like with my eyes, through either content, and Gaia TV has been a huge contributor to that, or the books that I'm reading, or even posts on social media, or a conversation I hear, it all impacts me. When it resonates, I know that it's something coming into my body that is part of the knowing that I'm meant to have. And I have to get away from it. I have to rest. I have to integrate it. So that, of course, when I'm starting to kind of think about why aren't I listening more, or why haven't I watched Gaia in 2 weeks, or why haven't I picked up that book? And then I get a message that's so random in my YouTube channel that comes up, and I open it because I'm drawn to it, and it tells me basically you have to rest between these downloads. You can't just hold it all. You'll explode. And this is why, and this has happened from what I'm learning, people who take on too much spiritual growth, I'm using that with quotation, air quotes, can become overwhelmed and become too grounded by it, and not in a good way, like stunted or stifled by it because it's too much. And I just want to be very mindful of that because I want to continue to grow, but I don't want to morph into um, something malignant or something out of balance. Maybe that's a better way to put it. The coherency is so important. The coherency in our body, the coherency of our body between the earth and the universe is so important that our meditation, which I'm not a big meditator, I'm not going to claim to be, but my life is basically a meditation. And not everyone can slow their life down the way that I have, where I'm not working. I rest in solitude. I would say 70% of my life, maybe even up to 90 at times. And I spend time with my babies, which is really the majority of the rest of my time. I have a little bit of time with friends and family, but mostly my solitude and then time with my family. So I have cultivated a life, and this is not, I will not take credit for this. My soul has cultivated a life for me of comfort and peace and stillness and solitude. Because I'm taking on so much information, this is necessary. And this is why I received, and I did a podcast on this called The Void. Why, when I was actively doing oracle readings for myself and actively listening to readings online, which I did hundreds of them over about a year and a half, the primary message was always rest. You're in a time of dormancy. You're in a time where you're being seeded for what's coming next in your life, for what's coming. And I was reminded over and over that I'm just to rest. And of course, I'm always thinking, well, I talked about this before. I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to need to get a job. I'm going to need to start working and create my own income and get back into the rat race. And I don't know if that's actually ever going to happen, if that's what's meant for me. And the reason why I came to the microphone today was really because of this experience. I think I mentioned in the last podcast episode, maybe it was one before, that I was starting to get an urge in my body to do something and to go out of this dormant period. And what I translated that as was time to get a job. I was reaching the end of my buyout from my ex partner in my business when I left more than a year and a half ago now. I ended up with enough money to stay retired, and I'm using air quotes again because I didn't know if that would ever end or when it would end, to stay in this time of solitude, which again, the source or my soul supported me through all this. I didn't know I was going to get any money when I left my business. I was just ready to go out and find another job. But here I got to keep my home, I got to keep my truck, I got to keep my this solitude, and I started to understand as this vibrancy was rising in my body and this awareness or this perspective was developing, was that this is what's meant for me, and it's not an accident. It's not an accident of good fortune that I'm in this peaceful, still environment. This is what my soul intended. And as long as I don't fight her, I get to enjoy it. So I'm getting to this point where I'm feeling this urge in my body to go do something. And I'm translating that as, okay, it's time for me to go get a job. And one of the themes throughout the tarot readings was that I would be working in an environment where I would be doing something similar to what I'd done before, and that I would have these coworkers who I would have this relationship with, and these people would be integral in connecting me with the future parts of my mission, which I don't know what they are exactly. I feel like it's my counterpart, which is my twin flame, the person who's going to be my partner in life, and what we are going to do together. But I really don't know that. I just know that that's coming. I don't know how it's going to emerge. I don't know when or anything. So my brain is saying, well, this must be that. So let's go look for a job. So this is so funny. I talked to my daughter about how to put myself out there. I created, social media on a, LinkedIn account, which I didn't have, and put all that stuff out there. And my daughter's kind of coaching me through how to do this. And mom, don't worry about finding a job. Put yourself out there the way you are. It's kind of like your electronic business card. So she's teaching me these things. And so I'm kind of creating this profile. I'm doing all these things. So now it gets to the point where I feel like I can start looking for a job. So I'm on these platforms, these electronic platforms, looking for a job. And the first time I opened it, this was about a month and a half ago at this point. The first time I opened a job board and started looking at the available jobs, I started to feel really sad. I mean, this overwhelming sadness, and I had to turn it off. And I went downstairs and I sat on my couch and I cried and I sobbed for about 20 minutes. And I'm like, I was laughing as I was crying, saying, "What is wrong with you?" And what I ended up feeling was that maybe that was kind of an emotional plug that had to come out in order for me to allow this other part of the universe or my future to come in. And I kind of discounted it, and I just went ahead the next day and I started looking. I felt better. And then I started to feel excited that maybe this would be something that would challenge me and I could find a leadership position, which is from my energetic design, from my human design chart and my gene keys, all the information about my soul's design. I'm meant to be in a leadership position. And I'm encouraged over and over, if you're not already in a leadership position, get into one. And I used to be in one for many years. I worked for a company for 13 years. I was a manager for 10 of those years. And uh, again, no mistake. This is all this happenstance in my life is all part of the design. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'll end up in a manager position. Maybe I'll be a life coach, which I have a certification for that. Maybe I'll do something. Maybe I'll be in the auction business again. I have no idea. I just know if something's similar to what I've done, it could be many things. So I'm just trying my best to apply for jobs that resonate or that draw me to them. And I'm kind of like thinking, okay, nothing really looks all that, feels like a soul connection, but let me go ahead and try. So I did end up applying for several jobs online, and I'm going through this process. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of excited about this. Is cool. And I get to a certain point. This is probably 2 weeks ago at this point, and this is really what brought all this on. Where I did my first one-sided interview, which is I haven't interviewed for a job in 26 years. Oh my God. So I'm thinking, okay, even if I don't get this job, at least I'll have some practice here. I did this one-sided interview, which was kind of weird, but kind of cool. And I finished that. I felt pretty good about it. And then later on in that day, I went back online and I started looking at the jobs again because I have now created these notifications where I get these, feeds of these jobs that are available with the criteria that I set up, and you know how it works. So I went on the job board that evening and I opened it up. And as soon as I started scrolling through the jobs, I felt like a switch go off in my body. I felt like my energy just dropped completely away to the point where I had to close down my whole computer, not just the job board. And I went downstairs and laid on my couch. I felt like, and only thing I can compare it to, and this is going to be a little bit dramatic, is when I went through the energetic break when my ex-husband wouldn't leave my house and I ended up in the hospital. I talked about this many times, where my energy just shut down. It wasn't that dramatic at all. Didn't have trouble breathing. I didn't feel any of those like really dramatic physical symptoms, but my energy just felt completely off. And I went downstairs and I laid on the couch and I just allowed myself to lay there and I just let it sink in. And I said to myself, Gina, just whatever this is, you're going to get through it. This is what I've gone through many, many times, these energetic anomalies. And I didn't really connect it to anything yet. And then of course I went to bed at so early that night. I was exhausted. I went to bed and I woke up the next morning with a revelation, which is my pattern. My When I go to sleep at night, I get informed. My higher self works on me when I sleep. So I woke up and I had this revelation or this understanding that it was time for me to stop looking for a job. It was just time. And I knew without even thinking much about it, because I'm so used to this feeling now, this understanding. When I have a revelation, I'm to trust it. I do not question it. My brain may not understand, but my body does. And that's all I need to know. And I talked about this before. And actually, the reason I talked about the light body was a similar experience. The beginning of that podcast, I explained it. So again, I'm having this energetic anomaly where I'm doing something that my brain is invested in doing. And I really thought my body was too. And what I believe in and what my daughter said to me, of course, my daughter is one of my spirit guides. I'm not, well, she's an incarnate. So she's a spirit guide who is my daughter. So she's a sister energy. She's not my daughter in the scope, in the grand scope of our spiritual selves, but in this role she plays my daughter, and she is helping me. And she said to me, Mom, don't discount what you did. It was part of what you were supposed to do. And what she meant was applying for all the jobs and doing the interview and all those things. And I already knew. I said, I know, you're right. There's no mistakes. So even though if I were in my low vibrational doubt, I would have said, "Oh shit! I was applying for a job. I was listening to my brain. I didn't listen to my gut. Oh my god! I wasted all that time. What if I get a job now? Oh my god! Oh my god!" But no, I had this peaceful stillness in my body, and I knew that yes, it was time to stop looking for the job. So I cut off, and it's so funny because something that happened during my looking for a job, it was probably about a month that I was looking for, maybe a little bit more, month and a half, that I was looking for a job. I didn't get any bites. I did meet a recruiter or a headhunter who called me, and maybe we'll speak about him again in the future. But for now, let's keep that in mind. And I was on ZipRecruiter, which I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. It's basically AI, so it's all electronic. There's no humans on the other end of it, and they basically take your criteria and they create these, just like all the job boards do, create these suggested jobs. But beyond that, you can apply with one click, and there's all this really. I think LinkedIn does it too, but there's these things that work in the background for you to help you find a job or to help you be exposed to recruiters and employers. And so I was working with that. And what started to happen in the last week before I cut it off was I was getting notifications from this platform that the job I applied for, they looked at my resume, and I'm looking, I'm like, what job did I apply for? And I looked, and it was a job that I didn't even apply for. I didn't look at it. It was some completely unrelated to what I was looking for. I'm looking for a leadership position. I'm looking for an operational manager position, or where I can coach managers, or be in a position where I can be support for a department or a group or other managers. I was not looking for a job at a flooring company or at a chemical company. And what started to happen, and before this was done, it auto applied for, I think, up to 5, maybe even more jobs for me without me doing it. So I started to get calls from these companies saying, "Hey, we'd like to set up an interview." I got a text from one, an email from another, and I'm thinking, "Oh no, I have to reject these companies I didn't even apply for." And of course, when I had this energetic drop, and I knew that I was supposed to stop looking at jobs, that this was uh, another helpful hand to help me understand and validate that. Because what I had to do was shut that off, because it was applying for jobs that I didn't even apply for. So I had to call this company and say, "I'm so sorry, I didn't apply for this job. Thank you for reaching out. I didn't want to leave them hanging." So now I'm getting these multitudes of these, "Hey, you applied for this job, and hey, do you want an interview?" And I had to shut all that down. I shut it off. And I said to myself, "Oh my gosh, this is the universe helping me decide to shut this completely down." And that same day I shut off LinkedIn, all the notifications on all these platforms I was on, and I just knew that either I was not to find a job, or I had already done what I needed to do to bring what is meant for me to me sometime in the future. And if you remember something very important that I said maybe a long time ago, what is meant for us will find us. We can get out of our own way for sure, but what's meant for us will find us. So I know that if I'm meant to have a job, air quotes again, because I don't know how that's going to manifest, it will come to me. And maybe what I did over the last month and a half, by putting myself out there, by creating that profile, I send out one post that I was compelled to send out. One post about how this headhunter reached out to me, even though I didn't match his job description. And he actually talked to me about who I was and what I knew. and how I'm kind of an amalgamation or a Frankenstein of experience, of diverse experience, and how to recruiters or headhunters, I might not look like a good keyword match. He was so great. He said, I just wanted to reach out to you. I just wanted to talk to you. And I want you to know that if you get in front of an employer, you're going to do really well, even though the job I'm filling, you're not a good fit for. I'm going to keep you in mind, he said. And it really hit me that he did that. It resonated. And what I felt compelled to do about a week later is I posted the one and only post on LinkedIn. Basically, what I said is this headhunter reached out to me. He talked to me about who I was, even though I wasn't a good keyword match for what he wanted. And he connected with me, and I felt heard by him. So I felt compelled to write that. And I said, dear headhunters and recruiters, not all diamonds are laying out in the open. Sometimes you have to go into the rough to find the rare ones. And I said, some of us are polished by time and experience and something like that. And then I ended it by saying, thank you, Bob, which was his first name. And I signed it, my full name, certified diamond in the rough. And I just posted it, one and only post. I didn't think much of it. And I get a phone call about a week later from this same headhunter, and he's just flabbergasted. And he says, I'm looking at this post by this person, and I think that this person that you're talking about is me. He goes, am I right? I said, yeah, I was so impressed that you reached out to me. I wanted to do this. And I hope you don't mind. He said, no, I don't mind at all. And he reposted it. He said, I just want to repost it. Is that okay? I said, sure. He reposted it on his network, and he has 500 followers. So, of course, my mind in this higher energy is thinking, well, maybe this person might be integral to what's coming. Maybe not. But whatever the purpose is, I feel like I put myself out there, that I looked for a job, and then it was time for me to stop. I just stopped. And another thing that I learned throughout this time and through the tarot readings throughout the year and a half was that I kept being told I'm going to be needed somewhere for a couple of years. And I just assumed that meant a job. Okay, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to be needed at some company or with some person who's probably a soulmate who I'm going to do my part and help that person, like my daughter's helping me, like my soul team is helping me all the time. I said, okay, that means a job. That means I'm going out in the job market. Eventually that's going to happen. So of course my brain, took all that and translated it into what I did, which was, again, no mistake. It was part of the design of this life. Even though I might think I made a mistake, I know better because my body says no. You were meant to put yourself out there. What it cultivates, what emerges, I have no idea. If it even does, I have no idea. So now I've come to understand, and I still don't know anything for sure. But my daughter, of course, said this to me, which made it much more clear to me that letting go of looking for a job and an income, by the way, don't have an income right now, I felt good about doing it because she said to me, Mom, I believe that where you're needed for 2 years is here with me. And it's so funny because when I told her about this originally, before I started looking at a job, I said that to her. And she said, no, Mom, you got to put yourself out there. We don't need you full time. I don't want you to give up your income for us. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll try to find a job at night or the weekend so I can be there for my daughter who has her own business. And I'm trying to be there for the baby so she can work from home without stress. It can be effortless for her. And that's what I've been doing. And now I feel such comfort and such knowing in my body that this is where I'm meant to be. And that, yes, I can use my savings. And even if I have to go into my retirement, that's what it's for. So I've got this peace with this because my body knows that it's right, even though my brain, even still, isn't quite sure. Okay, Gina, you don't have money coming in. Are you sure this is what you want to do? Like the brain is still working, but I've been able to discern between my brain and what my brain wants and my body and what my body knows. And all it took was my daughter kind of validating that, which was not an accident either. She knows what to say to me. Her body knows. Her soul knows how to speak to me to help make me comfortable or to validate what I'm doing, because I had to switch gears from looking for a job. And I told myself, one application a day, do one a day. And then we're going to find this right job and we'll get into this position where I'm going to be where I'm needed for 2 years and all that. because my brain translated what those readings told me when my brain has no clue what is coming. So this discernment between my brain and my body is become, and I told myself out loud because I have to give myself credit, part of this, and I was reminded of this recently in a random video that I watched, that we have to appreciate ourselves. We can't just be grateful for everything external to us or even our souls. We have to take the time to thank ourselves. I mean, and one of the pieces of advice I received was, you're here to help humanity. You came here into a place of absolute chaos and confusion and pain. And um, I had to go through all that lower vibrational life in order to emerge from it. You know, I think of myself as being born in mud and having to find my way to the surface and then cough the mud out of my body and then bloom out of it like a flower. That's how I see my life in this human iteration, in this human lifetime. So now that I'm this flower, I'm breathing this new air, and I'm having this new perspective, and I understand everything. I understand everything. So now when my body knows something and I feel peaceful with it, and I didn't feel excited, I didn't feel anything, I just felt peaceful. I knew it was right. And I just remembered, it popped into my mind because this is the resonation that I needed. It was a validation that I needed from my body. And it let my mind know to relax because it said, don't forget, you're always going to have everything you need. You are supported. So before a year ago, when I said, you cannot touch your savings, cannot touch it. You need to get a job before you get into that. I'm into my savings already. And then I would say, well, I can't touch my retirement. That's for old age. I just don't feel that way anymore. It doesn't resonate at all. I will always have what I need. So right now I have everything I could possibly need. And my time is with these girls. And feel so comfortable and so aligned and so coherent with it that when I have a moment, because I did the other night, and I just want to accentuate this, because if you're at all in this kind of like battle between your brain and your body, I want you to know how subtle it can be. But if your body is comfortable or peaceful, trust it. I was sitting by my back window the other night, which I do every night, and I was so delighted because it gets dark here really early now. The winter solstice is coming up next week on the 22nd of December, and it'll be the shortest day of the year, thereby the darkest daytime of the year. And then it starts to go up by a minute or so a day, and then a couple of minutes a day, and 3 or so minutes a day. And then before I know it, it's 9:30 at night and it's still daylight. I used to sit at my back door and look outside until it got dark, because that's my living meditation. And I'll just say that I don't meditate with my eyes closed in the meditation position. I do it every other day for a few minutes, but I've never been able to sit there too long. Uh, whatever reason, I don't fight it. It is what it is. But my life is kind of a meditation. So I look outside. When it starts to get dark, I close up the back window. I say goodnight to Mother Nature, and I close up the back window. I go about my evening. Well, what I've been delighted to discover is that when I sit and look outside, as it gets dark, I can still see the tops of the trees, and the sky is so illuminated by the moon so many nights. It's almost daytime. So I sit and look out my back window deep into the evening, 9 at night or so. So I'm sitting there, and I was thinking about this, back and forth between my brain and my body, and how entertaining it really is at this point, and how I dodged a bullet there by not insisting that I keep looking for a job when my body says you're done. It's time to stop. So I'm thinking, well, she really only needs me during the day, and maybe I can, maybe I'll find a part-time job down the road, and maybe, I'll get some income. So I'm not using all my savings, and, I'm going on and on to myself. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Is this my brain or is this my body? And all I said to myself was, just let it go. If it comes back and resonates, it's your body. Let it go. And I did, and it didn't. It did not come back. So it really is so wonderful to sit in this energy and understand that I can trust my body, because my body is open. My energy is expanded so much that I can trust this body without thinking about my brain, without allowing my brain to really disrupt that too much. And I don't mean to not value my brain. I absolutely do. She's amazing. She's brilliant. She is amazing at research. She loves to troubleshoot. She has created so much. I'm going to brag a little bit about myself, and this is part of my self love. Is I created my own website from scratch because I was interested in learning how to do it. So I put all the elements together. I learned how to produce my own podcast. With help, I had a wonderful young man help me, which I will give him credit. Thank you, Aaron, who was, of course, a serendipitous referral from my daughter, my soulmate daughter, who said, "Hey, I have somebody who can help you." Anyway, and I produce my own podcast. I upload it to all these platforms. I edit it. Well, I don't edit the podcast. I do the clips and I post those. And I had to learn how to do all this. And I love this. My brain is so good at researching and figuring things out. And I love to play solitaire, which I do on my phone, but I don't play it until I lose and then I start a new game. In this new energy, I love to play a game, and I always play the master game, the highest one. And I lose most of the time the first try. But what I love to do is deconstruct it again and try again, and deconstruct it again and try again. And usually by the third or fourth try, I'll win the game. So my brain is incredible. She created all of this. She embedded the podcast on my website. I did all this myself. And I love that. I love using my brain to figure things out and to create. And my brain is so important for that. So I don't want to discount my brain. I just want to make sure that I have balance or coherence in what my brain initiates and what my body dictates, because it's really almost like, I used to live from my brain, and now my body is where all the information comes from, and my brain kind of carries it out. So I don't want to discount that. I want to clarify that. And another reason I wanted to talk about this is I was exposed to something recently in a Gaia TV series, which I was drawn to by a post on one of the social media platforms. And it's called Initiation, and it's this young man, this beautiful young man, who talks about past lives. He remembers his past lives, and most of us come to this earthly experience. And I've learned so much about this. I won't talk too much about it because I know I don't want to go too long, but watch the series. It's called Initiation on Gaia TV. But this young man has access to the memories from all of his past lives. So he's recalling past lives from millennia ago. And 600 million years ago. I'm sorry, 600,000 million years ago. And what I've started to say is when we come to Earth as a human, we forget, and that's the right way to put it. We forget who we are or what we are, that we're a spirit or a soul. We forget that so we can come in here and have this experience. And I think I said this before. If we remembered that we're these powerful entities, we would never stay here. And that's why the ego was developed as a tool to ground us into the three-dimensional body, so we didn't want to leave. And the ego kind of is the barrier between our spiritual selves and our and the human experience, because without the ego, we would just want to go home. We would remember that we don't have to experience pain. We don't have to experience this disruptive life, these low vibrational debris, garbage that we pick up. We would just say, "I'm getting the fuck out of here," and we would go home. And this was a problem, from what I understand, early on, and the ego was developed in order to keep us here. So we come here to overcome the ego, basically. But he remembers, this young man, and he's so fascinating to listen to. And he remembers all these past lives, and he remembers the origin of the universe. And he describes it in a way that is just remarkable. And I will not try to transduce it because I'm still very early on. I'm only on the third episode. And this is something that I have to watch and then let integrate, because you can't understand it with your brain. You have to allow it to seed in your body, and then it finds the dormancies, it awakens or ignites them, and then you know. So I have a knowing of what he's talking about, but it's not integrated yet. I cannot explain it. Not enough where I would attempt it. So basically, he's talking about the origin of all life and consciousness and all these things, and how we come here to learn these things and to have these experiences, and it's all validated in what he's speaking about. So I'm listening to this series, and I'm not going to go on about it. It has to do with sacred geometry. There's so much complexity, but it's so simple, and if we allow ourselves to really just absorb it, the complexity falls away, and the knowing is just in your body. And this is what I found with life. So I'm listening to that. I'm also exposed to this other thing that is kind of on the same wavelength. And oh my God, it's so amazing how appropriate frequency is in all I speak about. That I'm listening to this video about, and it's so funny how the universe speaks to me. And I wanted to say this because it's so serendipitous and it's so tuned in to me as a human. So my higher self knows that Gina is on this human path. I am censored, or I have these sensory um, triggers that if I see something that resonates, I'm going to look at it. So my soul knows that. My soul team knows that. So when I look at videos, and I usually go on to my video channel to look at entertainment while I'm eating my lunch, and then I'll go off and do something else or I'll work or whatever. But oftentimes, and not since the tarot readings, but once in a while, something will pop up that'll resonate and I'll open it up. It's usually by a channel called DNA Awakenings or 5D Awakenings. There's two of them. I probably conflated the two, but once in a while, a title will come up, and when I'm having ascension symptoms, it'll pop up and it says, "Are you experiencing these ascension symptoms?" I'm like, "Oh, this is for me." So I open it up. So I looked at one recently, and I'm expecting this to listen to a video about ascension symptoms. It was not at all about ascension symptoms. And this is how my spirit team gets me to look at content that I normally wouldn't look at. So I'm listening to this video, and it's basically talking about the how humans think that our lives are linear. How we, because we're used to time managing our lives, it's managed completely by time. Without time, there's no linearity. I don't even know if that's a word. There's nothing is linear. So when you take time away, it just all it goes into fractals, and it exists everywhere at the same time. Past, future, present, all the same. It's all fractals of the same thing, and it's all exists at the same time. So when you think of life as being linear, we feel and think that way because we think that one thought creates an action which takes us a step, and then we're going down this road which is straight line into whatever future or towards whatever goal that we are interested in achieving. And it's just not the way it works. And this was so interesting for me to hear at this time because it was, of course, it resonated with me because all that I was going through with looking for this job and then stopping looking for the job, and I have all these things coming in my future, but I don't know when they're coming, and I don't know if what I'm doing is right or wrong, and all these doubts and all this stuff that we go through. I have just gotten to the point where I know what's meant for me is coming, and I don't have to worry about what I'm doing or not doing. And it doesn't hurt that I was reminded, of course, validated over time, that you will naturally do whatever it is you're meant to do. So if I allow myself to remember that and it pops up when I need it to, I get to relax and I don't have to worry, am I not doing something, or maybe I'm doing too much, and I don't want to ruin the experience by doing something I don't need to do, which is what I would have done if I would have kept looking for a job when it wasn't necessary for me to do so. Do you see what I mean? We screw up our own peace and quiet by assuming we need to do things when we're not connected from our feeling center. And I talked about this briefly in the light body, our feeling center. And this is something when I was reading the books by Barbara Marciniak, which of course is a series of information that I was meant to absorb. The Pleiadians, who are the beings from the Pleiades star system, who are here to help us navigate humanity and to emerge out of the lower vibrational versions of ourselves so they can be healed. It's all very connected. That they recommend that we live our lives from our feeling center. And our feeling center is our gut or our intuition. And of course, whenever I have doubts, that pops up into my body, and I realize, okay, no, let go. Your body knows, your brain doesn't have to agree. So I'm, you know, as I'm living, I'm learning to pay attention to my feeling center, reminding myself, feeling center, feeling center. I talked about it in that episode. Well, this video I'm watching is all about knowing when to take action and when to let go. And I'm thinking, how appropriate, of course, because I'm going through that right now. This is the kind of support that I get. This is a serendipity. This is the magic. This is what I'm talking about, the mystical quality of our life. If we're aware of it, if we embrace it, if we receive it, this is the magic. So I'm getting this other validation about how if you live from your feeling center, you don't have to doubt, you don't have to worry, you're doing all you're meant to do. That connection is clear. So this video is talking about how we have goals in our lives and how we go on this linear path to achieve these goals. And when we don't reach our goals, we give up and we self blame, or we become negative, or we blame the universe and everybody else for our shortcomings that we perceive as our shortcomings because we didn't achieve this goal. And what I learned is that life is not linear at all. Time makes it appear linear. And I know that might be conceptually difficult, but I want you to think about that. Without time, it's just wide open. I don't have to be anywhere at a certain time. I don't have to do anything at a certain time. I eat when I'm hungry. I sleep when I'm tired. I work when I'm inspired. I don't need time. Time is an element of the structured reality that we created in order for us to stay on track with what we're here to do. It's the ego's main tool is the time. So I don't want to get too deep into that, but just I want you to kind of get that concept. So it's not linear. Our lives here are not linear. So our goals are not achieved on a linear path. What happens is and this is another thing I won't go deep into, but this is what I'm exposed to. This is what my body now has this deep understanding, even though I may not yet be able to articulate it, is that we are all created from geometry. And sacred geometry is a series on Gaia that I watched early on. That was, of course, part of my learning, my expansion, that everything is created from geometry. And something in the series called Initiation, with this beautiful young man who has memories of of all these lifetimes, and the origin of time, the origin of consciousness, the origin of humanity. He talks about the Trinity, which is the spirit, which is all consciousness. And the spirit wanted to have experiences to see itself, so it created the soul. And the soul wanted a manifestation or a third eye, which is what it is, and created a human body or a body. So there's spirit, this is the Trinity, and it's a triangle. Spirit creates the soul, which creates the body. And that is the Trinity of life. And the third eye, or the body, the third eye in our forehead, is basically here we're in this human body to experience this perspective. So if you think of a submarine and the apparatus that comes out of the top and allows the person to see what's outside of the submarine, I forget what it's called, the telescope or whatever it is, that's the third eye for the submarine. The submarine is self-contained underwater. It can't see itself. So that eye going out of the top and looking around, having that 360-degree perspective, is how the submarine sees itself in its environment. I don't want to go too deep because it gets weird, but I just want to kind of say that our third eye, and this body was designed to carry this third eye so we can have an experience outside of ourselves and we can witness it. And we can also witness everything. It is our perspective. It allows a cosmic perspective, is our third eye in this contained body, in this solitary, in this separate body. So anyway, I don't want to get too far off course. So he's talking about this Trinity of life and how this, we created this body out of the spirit, which is all consciousness. The spirit is a part of that consciousness broken off in order to create the body to have this experience. Again, we're all part of the bonfire of life. We're just a spark out in the universe having an experience. We go home when we're done. So I'm listening to this and it's resonating with me in a way I can't even speak of. And then I'm listening to this video about how life is not linear. And all this is happening at the same time. This is within the same few days, week, that I'm seeing all this information. And I'm realizing, I'm learning in this video how the linear aspects are an illusion. So when we rely on this linear path, we get discouraged and we give up because we don't reach our goals. What is actually happening if we listen or we live from our feeling center, if we allow our body to guide us and our energy, and I'm talking quite literally, because I described to you what happened to me when I was looking at the jobs. When I was done looking, my energy just shut off. It was a physical manifestation of my body saying, you don't need to do this anymore. It literally stopped me from doing it. I didn't have the energy to do it. And I know I have an extraordinary connection with spirit, with my higher self, and so on, but we all have it. It's just how in tuned we are to it. So I may have thought that was something else and gotten up the next day and just did it again. And I'm only going to get so many reminders, unless I shut down, which, that could happen. But anyway, so it's not just emotional, which I kind of knew it was time for me to stop. It physically shut off. So it's not just your emotions or your feelings, your emotional feelings. It's your body, the energy in your body that changes. If you pay attention, you feel it, and you know that you're doing what you're meant to do, or stop doing what you're doing. So during this video, it's talking about how what we are experiencing is cyclical. And I've said this before, but this goes so much deeper into this cycling. It's not just a cycle, it's a spiral. So if you look at a nautilus shell cut in half, you see a spiral where it starts at a point in the middle and it spirals out. And as it spirals out, it widens and widens and widens. And how it was described is that our life experiences, so you're in the middle and your goal is on the outside, and you see a straight path to that goal. But what happens is, as soon as you step towards that goal, if you get swept into this spiral of energy that carries you to your goal. And if you pay attention and you are aware of the signs, signals, and synchronicities, if you're connected to your feeling center or your body, you follow or you lay back in the flow of your life. And this is what this means. And I could not articulate this before, but now it makes total sense that you lay back into this feeling and you don't worry about your brain. You learn to discern the difference. You lie back into the energy, the flow, and you are taken quite literally to your goal. So when you step into this spiral of energy, you go into the spiral and you take a step towards your goal, and then you take another step towards your goal on this linear path, and you're not successful. And instead of doubting it, you pull back and you say, okay, there's something I need to learn here, and you go and you examine yourself. This is the outward spiral taking you away from your goal. So you go do that self-inspection, and then you go back into the feeling and you realize it's time to take another step, and you go towards it again. Now you're taking a little closer to your goal on this spiral that's going outward closer to your goal. You get to that point where you feel like, on a linear path, I would keep going this way, but instead you listen to your body. You allow it to take you through the spiral again, which takes you farther away from your goal. And instead of losing energy and deciding that you're failing, you realize that what you're doing as you go away from your goal in the spiral, that you go towards your goal and then you don't reach it, but you go away from it farther now, and now you're closer to your goal. So if you imagine a spiral, you can see you start at the middle, you go up towards your goal, and then out away from it, and then up closer to your goal, and then further away from it, and so on. If you realize, as this energy ebbs and flows, or it circulates around your who you are and where you want to be, it is taking you on a journey of discovery. That if you allow yourself to listen to your body, what you're gaining are the skills, the knowledge, and the spiritual tools that are needed to continue or to reach that goal. And this is so fascinating to me because so much of what happens is not linear. And I think if you conceptualize this and you understand that this process of the spiral is expanding you. And this is exactly what I've been going through the last 2 years. 2.5 years, where I've been in this dormancy. I've been going through this energetic preparation. And maybe I didn't identify it as a spiral because there's no outward or external goal that I have, but my soul has those goals. And she's explained them to me. It's a counterpart or a twin flame, a partner in life. It is a mission that I'm yet to complete. It is possibly, I don't know if it's a position in a job or with someone else. I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but I know that I'm being prepared in this dormant void for whatever's coming. So maybe I didn't need to know what it was, but this is what it is. It's the spiral. So if you have a goal, and this is so important too, our goals are, if we're not in a cleansed or open, coherent state, our goals are created by our personality or our ego. So let's say I want to meet the perfect man and I'm in this egoic state and I want this type of man and I'm going for this type of man. You start to take that linear journey. You don't get there. You get these other relationships. Instead, I'm getting this relationship with this person who I thought was my match, but he's not nice to me, or he makes me feel bad, or he whatever. This is a relationship that is on the outward of this spiral that came to you to teach you to see yourself more clearly so you can become the person that you want for yourself. This is, again, frequency. You don't get to have the man or woman of your dreams unless you are the man or woman of their dreams. You don't get to wish for the very, very best match unless you are the very, very best match. Frequency attracts frequency. If you are wallowing in self pity and angry at the universe that you don't have a love affair that is fairy tale, the universe is saying, hey, sweetie, it's up here. You just have to elevate yourself to it and then you can have it. It finds you. You don't have to find it. So this is what this spiral of life, it's called the path of sacred creation. In this video I was watching, is how the universe takes you through your life energetically. And if you are connected at the feeling center and you are managing your brain, you get to take this ride without any effort. And that's where the effortless element comes in. I could not tell you this before because I didn't really understand it. I told you my life has become effortless and I'm content. This is why. Because I'm allowing myself to listen to my body, which is I wrote an article called Resonation, which covers this in more detail. My intuition is my vital language. It's who speaks to me and guides me. And of course, I get a lot of external help too. It's mostly validation, but some of it is information. A lot of it is, I guess. But when I have a doubt or a thought that I'm not sure about, I get a validation. I mean, this extends to my counterpart, my twin flame. And I didn't talk about this too much. I write about it extensively in my book. But whenever I speak to him and I have a question, he answers or validates me. And this is such a beautiful thing that, I mean, I hear it in a song, I watch a movie, and if I'm touched emotionally or I have an emotional reaction, which I was told would happen when I'm receiving a message from him, that's what happens. And I've had many, many of them. It's all my feelings and my body. It's not my brain. So I just want to accentuate that it's quite literally your energy. Once you are connected and tuned into that frequency, and the linear aspects of our lives, if you let that go and you just understand that if there's something that you want and you are not receiving it, it is not the universe hating you, or it's not karma coming to, well, it is karma, and it's the karma that you brought into the world, and it's not a punishment. It's what you decided you wanted to learn. You designed this life. You designed every aspect of it. You designed every challenge because you wanted to learn and evolve. So when you get mad at yourself. And then when you're done getting mad, look in the mirror and say, what am I meant to learn? And then you self-examine. And you do that by being alone and allowing yourself to be in solitude. You can't do it when you're tasking and running and stressing and your whole life is immersed into white noise. it blocks that frequency. So when you're able to see yourself and say, okay, what do I need to learn here? And with me, I have this counterpart in the future, and I kept saying to myself, well, he's not ready for me. I'm ready. He's not ready for me. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. What if I'm not ready for him? Oh shit. I got to remain open because maybe I'm not ready for him. Maybe I'm not elevated enough for him. This never stops. We're here on an evolutionary journey. We're never done. So I will never sit here and say, oh, I've reached the peak. I'm done. I can sit up here with my sunglasses on and look down on all of you. That's not how it works. We came here to help each other. I'm here to help everyone else and myself and this earth and all life in all the cosmos. Think about the fact that we live on a star. When we look up into the sky, we see stars and planets. We're like, ooh, it's so cool. We are also on a star. So when someone else looks at us from another planet, they're going, ooh, look at the stars and planets. We are part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the galaxy that our planet is contained within. There are millions of other galaxies that we're finding this out, which is another pet project of mine, which I love. The James Webb Telescope, NASA, the Hubble Telescope. This has become such an area of interest, and of course, it is because my origin is from the cosmos, and I'm very interested in where I came from, and I'm learning so much about it. But the James Webb Telescope, which has only been up in orbiting since the late 90s, has seen things that we've never been able to see before. We used to look through the Hubble telescope, which was an incredible invention, and we can see our Milky Way and all the planets and stars and the nebulae and the exploded stars and all the gases and matter and the stardust. It's all there, but we couldn't see beyond it. But now that we've created, and if you get a chance to watch this documentary, please watch it. It's on the James Webb Telescope. I think it's on Netflix. It is the most fascinating thing. It's about the origin, the development of the James Webb Telescope, which was supposed to supersede the Hubble, which is the one that we've had in orbit for I don't know how many years. It's supposed to be so much more advanced technically. The most interesting part of this incredible documentary or this story, this journey to put this telescope into orbit is that there were, and I'm not probably going to get the number right, I think there were 321 fail points on this project, on this telescope. 321 fail points. And what I took that to mean was if one of those failed, one of those 321, the whole entire thing failed. So this was basically a wing and a prayer, and they went through tons and tons of research and work and teams of people and billions of dollars. They had to fight with Congress to keep the money to keep this going, to get this telescope in the air. And the reason why it succeeded with all of this potential for failure is because it was meant to. Because as a humanity, we were meant to see beyond ourselves. And this almost makes me tear up. It's so beautiful. But when they put the James Webb up there, oh my God, I'm going to tear up. I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry. It's beautiful. When they put the James Webb up there and it got its very first images, this first image was sent to the White House so the president could see it. Oh my God, because Congress had so much invested in it. They found out that the James Webb could see beyond our Milky Way. Where before all we saw was blackness. We had no idea. But the very first picture that the James Webb took was of infinite number of galaxies. And it's, oh my God, it's so powerful. It makes me so emotional. That statement, we are not alone, and of course not. My God. And it's just so beautiful to see all those little spirals, and there's so many of them you can't count them, that it's estimated that there are millions and possibly billions of other galaxies. We are in one. Our planetary solar system is in the Milky Way galaxy. So just think about that for a moment and how expansive the universe is. The universe is. We can't even use the term universe anymore. And how much more we know about how expansive everything is and how we're learning it's all connected and that consciousness is one and we're all a part of it and so on and so on. It's just fascinating. So I'll post a reminder in the description on YouTube and on Buzzsprout, my platform, about that. It's called, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a documentary about the James Webb Telescope. It's just fascinating. But again, it's the word expansion, the word frequency. These are universal terms. This is what we are. We are the universe. We are expansion. If we allow ourselves to overcome the ego and the personality. So what we want with our person, let me get back to this last point. It's getting late. When we're on this linear path towards our goal and we keep failing because we don't understand that if we listen to our body, we're being taken on a spiral journey towards our goal. So we're at point A and our goal is point A. We're starting at point A in the middle. Point B is our goal. This was so fascinating the way this was described. If we're on the spiral, we allow ourselves to lay back into this energy and take this ride and learn our lessons as we go, gather our spiritual gifts as we go, prepare ourselves to reach our goal, to be ready and worthy of our goal. We have this incredible effortless experience. But if we fight against it and we insist on this linear path and thereby jumping out of the spiral, what we do is we're basically pushing through uh, the walls of the spiral shape, and we're breaking it apart, and we're discounting it, and we're insisting, our ego is insisting we go linear. What we end up achieving is point C, which is the opposite of our goal. I want you to think about that for a second. When you push against the natural patterns, the natural geometric shape of all life, this spiral in the half of the nautilus that expands towards your goal and then takes you farther away, and then close to your goal and then farther away on this spiral. If you let go of the need for the linear journey, you can relax. And then if you insist upon it and you jump out of that spiral, you discount all of the natural navigation, all the natural guidance, all the natural the way you're compelled to do things in life. That compellation, that compelling to do something, is your body telling you do this. That heart pumping need to say something, that's your body telling you to do it. If you're pushing against all that and you're going the way you insist on going, you're going to reach the opposite of your goal. So just know that, and then by laying back, you're preparing yourself to reach your goal, and just be prepared. But by the time you grow through that spiral shape and all of that circular motion and the back and forth and the self-examination and the learning and the gathering of the skills and the spiritual tools, by the time you reach your goal has changed, because you no longer are your personality. You are now your body reaching the goal your soul intended. This is just so extraordinary that if we learn to live from our feeling center, and thank you to the Pleiadians for validating that, for letting that emerge in my body and connect with my frequency and allow me to speak about it, hopefully clearly. When we learn to live from our feeling center, and by learning, I just mean letting go of our need, our ego, our personality, and what we think we want. And we allow ourselves to open to what the body wants, which is our higher self, our soul, and the reason we're here. Remember, we have to overcome the ego. That's what we came here to do. So we have to kind of align, we have to put it in, we have to be able to manage it. We have to learn to manage it. Ego and mind, brain are all very important, but it needs to be managed. And our bodies are what we need to listen to. So when we're able to listen to our feeling center and live from our feeling center, and again, if you read the book Earth by Barbara Marciniak, this is where this came from. We live from our feeling center and we let go of our need for a linear journey. And we understand that it's spiral. It's a spiral that takes us out and in and around and prepares us. This is how it works. And that we are a part of everything, this expansive universe. And I have to tell you something that I don't think I've articulated out loud, and I'm going to end with this. Through my healing early on, when my ex-husband finally moved out and I was in the lowest point of my life, And I was starting to heal and feel a little better about my journey and starting to understand the connection with spirit that I had and the messages and the tarot and all of that. I went through a very short period of time where I felt this deep loneliness. It was such a deep loneliness. I reached out to an old friend that I hadn't spoken to in years, even though we never really had a friendship. She's somebody I knew from school. I'm old now. I don't really have a relationship with this person, but I reached out like in desperation and I even during that time, I tried to imagine that my ex-husband could be a friend. And I reached out to him and said, look, let's try to be friends. And I went to his new house that he bought because I told him I wanted to see it. He picked me up. I went to the house with him and I walked. As soon as I got there, I can feel my energy shut off. And I said, please take me home right now. And I knew, oh my God, what am I doing? And he was so confused. I felt so bad. I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't do this. And I went home and I got it out of my head. But this loneliness lasted about a day or two. And then it went away. And when I realized recently is I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep. And this happens frequently. I'm laying in bed and I look outside my window and I see the tops of the trees and I instantly feel this peace wash over me. And I had an articulation about this. I said, this planet is my family. The trees are my family. That's why I get such peace from looking out all the time at the trees. I'm always looking up at the treetops in the sky. And this earth is my mother, and and all of her babies are these trees and the plants and the animals. And this is my family. I mean, besides my human family, my babies, this is my family. And I just got the sense of peace that all I need to do is look out the window and I am immersed in this love or reminded of it because again, this separate body makes us think we're separate. And of course it's on purpose, but it tricks us. We are one with all life. That's why I spend so much time outdoors in my bare feet or in my leather shoes when it's too cold. I stand with no socks in my leather shoes and I touch the tree in my yard. I stand there and I just commune because this is my family. This is my body, my energy, my soul, my spirit, my consciousness is this planet and every life, including the rocks and the grass. It's all consciousness. It all has a molecular structure and responds to stimuli. It's all an ecosystem. It's all life. So it's all my family. So in this separate body, all I do is go out and commune and I never feel lonely. I never have a moment of loneliness, not for a man, not for a friendship, not for a situationship or anything. I am immersed in love always. This is the abundance of life. Is this understanding, this recognition that we don't need anything external from ourselves. We only need to remember that we are a part of everything and that it's an illusion that we're not. And that love is surrounding us constantly. And if we can return that vibration, it multiplies exponentially. And we are bombarded with the love vibration and thereby fortifying our own and ramping it up. And I refer to my heart as a NOS tank because I'm pumping out this vibrational frequency everywhere I go, and it affects everyone and everything. So I wanted to share that experience with you because it was so powerful, so subtle, but so powerful. And this is the subtle connection that we have to become aware of if we want this effortless, beautiful spiral life that's designed for us. That our heart and our body and our mind are connected so our actions are coherent with who we truly are at an energetic level. Our energetic signature is singing love songs to the universe. And our lives are effortless and fully abundant and rich without any help from anything man-made or that comes in another package. This is what comfort in our solitude, listening to our bodies, letting go of the ego and the facade, connecting energetically with the universe, we become the universe again. And love is our signature, and it is just returned to us tenfold. So I want to leave you with that thought. And I want to tell you I love you, and I'm so grateful for this incredible voice and all that I'm learning, and allowing me to share this with you, because it means everything to me. So I thank you again, and I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day, and happy holidays to everyone who celebrate the Christmas holidays, or whatever holidays you celebrate in whatever way. Happy holidays, and thank you.